Every year, India's union budget is a huge deal. It's basically the financial roadmap for over a billion people. But this year, with the world's economy looking a little shaky, the budget for 2026-27 is something more. It's a really high-stakes balancing act. So let's dive in and unpack what makes this one so important. Right now, the global economy is facing some serious headwinds. We're talking geopolitical tensions, tighter money, and just a general slowdown in demand pretty much everywhere. But in the middle of all that noise, one economy is really standing out as a bright spot, and that's India. And that right there is the trillion rupee question, isn't it? How do you keep your foot on the gas when everyone else is hitting the brakes, all without losing control? That's the tightrope, and it's the central challenge this budget has to solve. Okay, so to really get what's at stake here, we need to look at this huge contrast. On one side, you've got this shaky, uncertain global stage, and on the other, you have India's domestic economy, which is surprisingly strong. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, that's the world picture. Pretty risky, kind of slow. But then you look to the right, and that's the story in India. Solid fundamentals, stable policies, and this really powerful engine of government investment just pushing everything forward. And here's the result of that resilience. A projected real GDP growth of 7.4%. I mean, in today's world, that number is absolutely remarkable. It really is a testament to the country's domestic strength. Which brings us right to the heart of the whole strategy. I want you to think about it like someone walking a tightrope. On one side, you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep that growth engine running. But on the other, you have to make absolutely sure the rope you're walking on is stable and secure. So here's that trade-off in action. To fuel growth, the government is hitting the accelerator. That's capital expenditure, or CAPEX, big long-term investments in things like roads and railways. But to keep things stable, it has to use the brakes. That's fiscal prudence, which is all about keeping debt under control. You see the dilemma? Go too fast, you might spin out. Go too slow, and you stall. So what exactly is fiscal prudence? Well, it's really just a fancy way of saying the government is managing its money responsibly. It's like your own household budget. You want to invest in your future, sure, but you can't just max out all your credit cards to do it. You have to be smart. It's the exact same principle for a country. All right, let's talk about that accelerator. Let's look at the growth side of the equation, because this is where the government is really placing its bets on building the India of tomorrow. Just look at that number, 13 trillion rupees. That's the planned capital expenditure from the government. It's a massive injection of money, up about 10 to 15% from last year. Make no mistake, this spending right here is the main engine for India's entire growth strategy. But what in the world does 13 trillion rupees actually get you? Well, it gets you a lot. We're talking about tangible things. New roads, modern railways, better logistics to move goods around. It's also about strengthening national defense, building smarter cities with more housing, and investing in a cleaner, greener energy future. This is what nation building looks like in real time. Now, this obviously leads to the big question. A 13 trillion rupee spending plan is fantastic, but where does all that money come from? And this is where the other side of that balancing act, that steady hand of fiscal prudence, comes into play. So let's take a peek inside the government's wallet. As you'd expect, the biggest piece of the pie comes from taxes. The government also gets a pretty big chunk of cash from the Reserve Bank of India, and it raises money through something called disinvestment. Anything left over, any spending that's not covered by this income, well, that has to be borrowed. So what's disinvestment? It's actually pretty simple. It's when the government sells some of its ownership in a state-run company. This does two things. One, it raises a lot of money to fund spending. We're talking 50 to 70,000 crore rupees. And two, it can also bring in some private sector efficiency to those companies. And all of this spending and earning brings us to the single most watched number in any budget, the fiscal deficit. The target is 4.4% of GDP. Now, you can think of this number as the country's credit score. Keeping it low sends a powerful signal to global investors that India is responsible, that it's a safe place to put your money. It's the ultimate proof of that fiscal prudence we were talking about. Okay, so we've been throwing around some massive numbers, trillions of rupees, percentages of GDP, but let's bring this down to earth. What does all of this high-level economic stuff actually mean for the day-to-day lives of regular people? And this is the most important part to remember. This isn't just an abstract exercise in economics. The whole point of this balancing act is to create jobs, to improve life in rural India, and to build the social infrastructure, like housing and clean water, that benefits every single citizen. And you can see that focus right here in the numbers. Take a look at the funding for the main affordable housing program. It's jumping by a massive 64%. That's a huge commitment, and it's aimed squarely at helping more families get a roof over their heads. But hold on, as big as that is, it's nothing compared to this next one. Look at the increase for the Jal Jeevan Mission. That's the program to bring clean drinking water to every single rural home. The funding is nearly tripling, with a jaw-dropping 195% boost. This is a genuinely life-changing investment. And the list just keeps going. The investments are pouring into other critical areas too. We're seeing major funding increases for rural roads, for rural development as a whole, for our cities, for education, and of course, a continued focus on public health. It's a really broad-based push. All right, let's zoom out one last time and look at the big picture. Because this budget, really, it's not just about getting through the next year. It's about laying the foundation for something much, much bigger.
And this slide right here tells you the ultimate why. Every single decision, every rupee spent is a building block for this incredibly ambitious national goal, Viksit Bharat at 2047. The vision is to transform India into a fully developed nation by the time it celebrates 100 years of independence.
So what we're looking at is a high-wire act. It's balancing the immediate need for growth with the long-term need for stability. And the choices being made right now are going to have an impact for decades to come, shaping India's path toward that 2047 goal. Which leaves us with a big question. Is this the right balance to build that future?